Crypto Weekly released their top 100 most influential people in cryptocurrency. Today we're going to jump right to the top 10. Roger has spent years promoting Bitcoin Cash, basically arguing that the sky is not blue. And if anyone tries to reason with him, I remember Charlie Shrem saying how they used to be good friends, but Roger won't talk to him anymore. It's just very sad. Roger, if you're listening to this, chill out. You're rich. If people don't want Bitcoin Cash, it wasn't meant to be. Please talk to Charlie again. Roger's not a crazy person. At least no crazier than you or I. In my opinion, he's just extremely stubborn. That stubbornness and blind belief that he is always right is what led to legal troubles when he was younger, and it's what led to him putting $100,000 into Bitcoin when it was worth pennies. It's made him very successful, but it's also made him susceptible to getting stuck. And he's definitely stuck right now, with a large part of the community that once loved him as an early promoter of Bitcoin, now trolling him on every website except the ones he owns. Roger owning Bitcoin.com alone should put him on this list. All the normies who search Bitcoin probably land on that site. And it's a little scary. Their first exposure to Bitcoin might be this. As much as it frustrates me to see sock puppet accounts pushing Roger's narrative, getting in arguments about Bitcoin Cash actually made me learn a lot more about Bitcoin and about crypto in general, so I am thankful for that. I just hope Roger can put his passion in a more positive direction. A new addition to the list, Kelly Loeffler. She was the CEO of Bakkt. People were very excited about it at the time. Bakkt, under the same tree as the New York Stock Exchange, and would allow guys in suits to trade Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. A lot of money was coming in. People actually thought Starbucks was going to promote people buying their stuff with Bitcoin. But then two things happened. The senator of Georgia was diagnosed with Parkinson's, and Kelly was nominated to take his seat. So at this time, she is Senator Loeffler. And Bakkt has not really been a success. Now, you might say the coronavirus can be blamed, but for whatever reason, Wall Street is not ready to go all in with crypto. That said, we now have a senator that is very familiar with crypto and must believe on some level. Kelly and her husband have one of the biggest houses in the state of Georgia. She owns part of the Atlanta Dream, a WNBA team based there. I think she has a basketball background. Look at her just mogging these two guys. Mike Pence, for reference, is 5'10". If you Google Kelly, you'll start to see just how tied together business, politics, and finance all are. And it is kind of gross. She's been involved in some shady stuff, so that's not great. But what you can take away with regards to Bitcoin is that this is how we win. Bitcoin stays legal. Bitcoin slides its way into the old corrupt systems before they realize what the implications are. Like one of those little wasps that lays its egg in a spider, it needs to get in there before they know what is happening. I know the enlightened thing to say is that Bitcoin is unstoppable, but a ban in the USA would be very bad. Bitcoin sneaking its way in slowly, rising in price, rising in hash rate, rising in users, makes it stronger and makes it more censorship resistant. So regardless whether or not Kelly is evil, she can still help Bitcoin. Charlie Lee. In the game since 2011. Thought leader, creator of Litecoin, the supposed silver to Bitcoin's gold. I like Charlie. In interviews, he presents as an intelligent, humble guy who can articulate his position and thought process clearly. Charlie is most famous for, and really became very rich by creating Litecoin and then selling his stack in the crazy prices of 2017. I think he said in creating Litecoin, he just tried to make Bitcoin and make the transactions quicker, increase the number of coins, and used different cryptography. Satoshi never really detailed why they made Bitcoin have 10-minute blocks, 21 million cap, and SHA-256. A lot of the things we take for granted with Bitcoin were really just educated guesses on what will work best. Satoshi being anonymous makes them the ultimate neutral party, but Charlie is a public figure, a real human with flaws, so all his decisions can be picked at, and for me, it just takes away any incentive to use Litecoin. Charlie got his bachelor's and master's at MIT for computer science, worked at Google, and then worked at Coinbase. These days, his job appears to be Litecoin, supporting the Litecoin Foundation and working on adoption. Why Litecoin has gotten a second wind and probably helped boost Charlie up on this list are recent experiments trying to work Mimblewimble into Litecoin. I've talked about Mimblewimble before. The paper was written by an anonymous developer trying to make truly confidential transactions. And that's the stuff that gets me excited. Work that speaks for itself, not because it has famous names or marketing attached to it. Plus, any research that helps Litecoin with privacy helps Bitcoin with privacy. With open source, what is good for one is good for all. Brad returns to the top 10 from last year. He remains the CEO and chairman of Ripple Labs, despite the Ripple token being considered a joke by many. A centralized coin that shouldn't even be considered a cryptocurrency. The company has continued to work, and they gained partnerships with MoneyGram, Western Union, and American Express. What does a partnership mean exactly? I'm not really sure, but I know when I've gone to get a money order, XRP was not an option. Ripple Labs throw a lot of money around trying to find a use case for Ripple. And I guess it's hard to bet against Brad when you look at his resume. The man's run a million different companies. I just struggle to see why using the XRP token is more useful than traditional banking. I suspect if we don't get another pop in price and things just keep dropping, Ripple Labs will really be exposed and Brad will move on to his next venture. He's a businessman. I know he loves to share. He drove for Uber and mixed it up with the common man as some kind of experiment, but I just don't put Brad in the same category as other people on this list. You want some street cred? Maybe go get sued by the federal government or have a meltdown on Twitter. Vitalik Buterin, creator of Ethereum, the #2 cryptocurrency in the world. My views have kind of evolved over time on Vitalik. I used to say he was the centralized point of failure for Ethereum, and while he remains the most visible spokesman, it's really not fair to all the other developers working on it to say he's in control. Vitalik's an odd guy, and his unique personality has really led to the culture of Ethereum being, we're all in this together, rather than the cold, don't trust anyone attitude of Bitcoin. And for open source projects, you can't discount the hook. What is the reason to use it? How can you get people to care and to use your project? Ethereum continues to attract a lot of developers, and who knows, maybe it can succeed long term. I just don't see Ethereum flipping Bitcoin. I mean, look at this development cycle. It doesn't compare to the immaculate conception of Bitcoin. But Vitalik's an interesting thought leader, and if we ever get out of this bear market, Vitalik is going to get a ton of TV exposure. I mean, just look at the guy. Network television producers would probably love to get him on their talk shows. I can see Jimmy Kimmel asking him stupid-ass questions like, are you still single? If I wanted to be critical of Vitalik, I could be, and say how Ethereum is a complete mess with no real use case, and that his time and energy would be better spent working with Bitcoin. But everyone who bet against Ethereum at the start lost out on becoming rich. Just as rich as people who were there with Bitcoin in 2009. If you got in on the ground floor of Ethereum, you would have made bank. I can't tell you the technical merits of Ethereum versus any other world computer project like Holochain. I can't tell you which white paper is better, or Holochain I think calls it a green paper. But I can say that if we are going to get smart contracts to work, it's going to be on the projects that people actually use. Momentum matters. Getting a community involved, and at only 26 years old, he's done that. Brian is the man behind Coinbase. All things considered, pretty good exchange. That and Coinbase Pro. Of course, the day I'm recording this, the site shuts down after a price crash. But earlier this year, Coinbase finally decided to start batching their Bitcoin transactions, which reduces fees on the network and really should have been done a long time ago. I don't think a real explanation was given for why now. Maybe the fact we haven't had a bull market in a long time has humbled them. Coinbase and Brian have been heavily criticized for seeming to have an agenda, not necessarily against Bitcoin, but an agenda in promoting altcoins. Coinbase has these earn crypto rewards where you are forced to watch informational videos, and then they quiz you on your knowledge to earn a small amount of these shitcoins. It just feels wrong, even if you can immediately trade it for Bitcoin. But I empathize with Brian on some level. If Bitcoin is the only crypto, Brian can't make his nut. Brian makes his nut if there are a million random cryptocurrencies that dumb people buy and sell, creating these wild price swings, because people like him at the exchange get a cut from all of it. Last year, I predicted Facebook would buy Coinbase, and I was wrong, at least for now. Also, kind of off topic, but relating to CAPTCHAs, the day you have to type the words Dunkin' Donuts is yummy to do a search on Wikipedia is the day the internet has died. Former president of PayPal, Marcus sat on Coinbase's board of directors since 2017 and also worked at Facebook, where he was vice president of messaging products. Marcus now heads up Facebook's Libra team, which could potentially introduce digital currencies to Facebook's billions, that's with a B, of users. I feel like people have stopped talking about Libra just because of the initial backlash they got, but it's not going away. I think the people at Libra were actually ready for and expecting a big pushback at the announcement. Like Trump negotiation, you got to go in hard to start. And then when you back off a little in the negotiation, it seems like compromise. The cool thing for hardcore Bitcoiners is to hate on Libra. And I mean, it is complete garbage compared to Bitcoin, but it's not a joke. It's not a scam. Like a few other projects out there, Libra's idea of decentralization is a federation. So you tell the common man, this is money of the people, but the powers that be can still lean on influence and shut it off as needed. Is it the best of both worlds? Can we have a cryptocurrency that remains on a leash? No. If you give up censorship resistance, there is no need to do any of this. So when they stroll this thing out in the next couple of years, when they stroll out Libra, you tell them to shut up and don't put the microchip in your arm. Mr. Marcus, to his credit, has been involved with Bitcoin since 2013, possibly sooner. So just because he's working at Facebook now, it doesn't mean he won't have an important role in the years ahead. So good luck, Mr. Marcus. Jack Dorsey, or simply Jack, created Twitter over a decade ago. Enough has already been said about Twitter. I mean, the obvious reasons for its success are how simple it is to interact with other people and the creativity that can happen when there are limits in place. In Twitter's case, it's the text limit. Sometimes to create great art, you need limitations. If you have unlimited options, you can be paralyzed. Having a box to work in forces you to use your brain in a different way. And Jack's one of those weird tech entrepreneurs who seems to prioritize the right things. Takes care of his body, his mental health. He's generous with charity work. And the man gave us the Bitcoin emoji. Jack has also appeared to have battled back against old money trying to take over his website. Just an impressive guy, and he seems to get Bitcoin. Bitcoin isn't just a technology experiment. It's a social experiment. And the more he spends time thinking about it, the more I think one day we'll wake up and Twitter will have integrated wallets. With Square and more recently Cash App, Jack has his hands in financial services. If he can pull off what I think he's planning, whew, baby. Jihan went radio silent, at least in Western media, for a while. But he's back in action now. I'm surprised how high he is on this list, but I guess it makes sense. Miners have a lot of power. And obviously, when you've got one company making most of the mining equipment in the world, it's going to be pretty powerful. Jihan's part of the leadership at Bitmain, the largest producer of miners. I wasn't a fan of this guy because of him putting resources blatantly and behind the scenes to, basically create think tanks. Jihan wants to promote any fork of Bitcoin that puts miners ahead of users. And we can't do that. We can't allow big miners to dictate the rules. It's too dangerous and defeats the point of decentralization. Guys like Roger Ver are the loudest and biggest people out there muddying the waters, but you got to follow the money. Who's funding all of this? And Jihan is a big part of that. I do respect his success. No other country can compete with the current mining infrastructure, plus the future capacity of China. What's that famous phrase? The sun rises in the east, but it sets on the west. Keep an eye on the actions and words of Jihan Wu. There is mining development happening elsewhere in the world, but until we have a utopia where everyone in the world runs a full node on their smartphone, centralization of mining remains a threat.
Funds are safe. Funds are safe. Funds are safe. Funds are safe. Funds are safe.
Fundus are safe. Binance continues to be a juggernaut of a company, and Changpeng Zhao, CZ, remains head of the table. Remember how Google used the phrase, "don't be evil"? I think CZ has spent another year of not being evil. Just like Brian Armstrong in Coinbase, it's in CZ's and Binance's interest for there to be a market of altcoins. But he has largely been a good ambassador for Bitcoin and all of crypto. He's running the biggest exchange, and what comes with that is access to the God account. The analytics of who is trading what, when, it's just incredibly useful data if you're looking to make money. And in an unregulated or less regulated market, it's just so powerful. If crypto gets to the adoption, the security, the price that many think it will, CZ is going to have insane money. All these people on the list will, but CZ is really in a position of power. And he's number one on the list. It could be very scary if it was someone else, but unlike some of the others on this list, I don't think he's motivated by profit. To predict the future, all we can do is look at the past, and there's nothing that points to CZ looking to do anything but spread crypto to the world. Even when he shills his own stuff, Binance Chain, he comes across as just a regular guy. How can you criticize him? The fundus are safe phrase, memes are funny when they're true. That said, probably don't leave all your money on Binance. So there's the list. Maybe next year you'll be on it. And if not, well, it doesn't really matter, does it?
11 years when I was sitting on the block. Yeah, my family had a